Here on this channel, I like to think we're not adverse to a bit of strong language. The oldest music ever written, the most beautiful song in the world, the greatest Advent hymn ever written. You can see what I mean. But to furnish my boasts, I like to use some other very powerful words. And perhaps the strongest of these is the word century. We're still listening to J.S. Bach nearly 3 centuries after he died. We're still walking under the archways of churches built 9 centuries ago. But today's video is all about the oldest Christmas hymn ever written, and that allows us to use one very special word indeed. And that word is millennium. When I first started playing the organ for church services, my priority was to play for as many as I possibly could. Keep myself busy and get my name around. Because like any trade, you get more work by your reputation. And it worked because I ended up playing in just about every single church in Salisbury. But once, when I was heading home from a wedding, the entire exhaust pipe fell off my car, which taught me 2 things. Firstly, to buy a new car, and secondly, that perhaps it wasn't such a good idea driving around all over the countryside. So instead, I decided to consolidate, to play for one single church in Salisbury, and this church was what we might describe as an Anglo-Catholic church, which means that the services were much more traditional, more serious. There was incense, there was lots of Latin chanting, and the music had to live up to this. This is when I discovered plain song. Plain song is perfect in church services like this because not only does it have the correct kind of gravitas, but also if you have a small group of singers, plain song always works. It sounds excellent sung by 20 singers, but it also works really well sung by 2 singers. And it was this discovery which led me to the oldest Christmas hymn ever written. The houses just peeping over the hill to tell us we've nearly arrived. The sun shines on the face of one of my favourite churches in England. Welcome to St Mary's in Long Critchell. All seems quiet in one of Dorset's most secretive churches. But there's a problem. If there's one thing incredibly concerning when you walk into a church, it's seeing a trapped bird. But the fulfillment of saving it makes up for it. And now you've seen the entire church in 360 degrees, even if you had a rocky ride. Welcome back to St Mary's Church in Long Critchell. I love adventure, but I also love familiarity, and this is one of my favourite village churches on the planet. Part of the reason I love it so much is because it has no electricity. So all of the lighting is provided by the sun. All of the amplification is provided by the natural acoustic of this building. And I love the way that as morning progresses to afternoon and advances on to dusk, the ambience of this building changes. And when the sun finally sets, the glow is extinguished. This is a church which is in perfect harmony with nature. It's now cared for by the Friends of Friendless Churches. There are no regular services held here, I'm afraid, but plenty of events and some occasional services. And the decoration of this church, which is magnificent, is really due to the Friends' efforts to preserve it. Let's talk about the organ, or should I say the organs. There are two instruments here. The one on the right has been here for a very long time. It's an old Story and Clark American harmonium, built in Chicago, and I'm afraid to say it doesn't work, but it remains here as a part of this building's heritage. And on the left is an English reed organ, which I helped to bring to this church. It was originally in a farmhouse not far from here, but when the farmhouse was sold, it was moved to a barn and it needed a new home. St Mary's Church was the answer, because of course its older organ didn't work, but also because these reed organs require no electricity, so they're really practical in buildings like this one. Come, thou Redeemer of the earth, and manifest thy virgin birth. Let every age adoring fall, such birth befits the God of all. I've known those words for a long time because I've been playing for church services for a long time. And I always thought they were Victorian words, packaged up neatly with a quaint Victorian tune. But I was wrong, because these words are actually very beautifully translated from a hymn written centuries earlier. In fact, written more than a millennium before. Today, the 7th of December, marks the feast day of Aurelius Ambrosius, Saint Ambrose of Milan. He was bishop there in the 4th century, and he served to popularise hymn singing, a tradition which has remained with us for 1,600 years. Veni Redemptor gentium, ostende partem Virgini, miretur omnes seculum, talis deset partus Deum. Even without the English translation, this is fantastically evocative poetry. But I am a musician, and I must admit, it causes me some concern. From here on in, this video actually becomes really hard for me to produce. And let me tell you why. A hymn normally refers to the words rather than the music. And these words, written in the 4th century, are not attached to any specific music from the time. The earliest music we can find to match with them is the plain song, but even that was written a few centuries after the words. I'm not a theologian, I'm not a Latin scholar. If I were to read these words in their entirety, any classicists watching would laugh at me. So it becomes very difficult to produce a video like this. And have I shot myself in the foot with my title? Well, why don't we start by going back to the earliest recorded sound world, which we can attach these Latin words to, and that is the aforementioned plain song. Veni Redemptor gentium, the plain song which accompanied the oldest Christmas hymn ever written. And that music, which dates from around the 1100s, is the earliest music which we sing to these words. So now we are beginning to talk in a language I understand as a musician. Now we fast forward a few more centuries to the 1500s and to a very famous monk called Martin Luther. He translated the Latin into German, but he also took that plain song and he adapted it to make it into a hymn for people to sing much more easily than they could sing the original plain song. That hymn tune was picked up by a famous composer called J.S. Bach, who turned it into organ pieces to play during services in Advent. So now I feel like I'm on slightly more solid ground. Nun komm der Heiden Heiland, J.S. Bach's adaptation of the plain song music, which was derived from the oldest Christmas hymn ever written. So we're beginning to build up a network of musical pieces all stemming from an ancient text. And of course, when we get to the 1800s, we find the first English translation of that ancient text, which has made the hymn yet more famous all over the world. So this is a story which has spanned 1,600 years and taken us into the very depths of our history. If you're enjoying the music so far, then do remember to click that subscribe button. I have plenty of interesting plans for this channel and churches to visit, so if you subscribe, you'll be one of the first to see them. It doesn't cost a penny. If you'd like to support me more, then you can click on the PayPal link underneath this video, and from there you can leave a small contribution if you'd like to help me out financially, and if you're enjoying the music today. Thanks so much. But in the meantime, I'd like to leave you with one short meditation on the plain song we've heard today for Veni Redemptor Gentium. And this is followed by a new piece which I started writing at Long Critchell and which I'd like to play to you in full. So you can spend a few final moments looking at the scenery around St. Mary's Church at Long Critchell. Thank you, as always, for watching, and have a great new week. Cheerio.